All right, welcome everybody to today's webinar. Um, as we kind of just wait a couple more minutes for people to trickle in, just a minute or two, feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat box. It's on the right side of your screen. Maybe drop a quick hello to Simon, our host today. Maybe just say where you're from, what's your name, what you're doing. We'd love to get to meet you as we wait just a minute or two for people to trickle in. So yeah, welcome everybody.
Hi, Joe.
And I see Felix is typing.
Pleasure, Stephen. Really looking forward to this one. Lubrication.
Awesome. Yes. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. We're just going to wait one more minute for a couple more people to trickle in. But in the meantime, keep introducing yourselves in the chat. It's super awesome when we get to kind of interact in this way. And even throughout the webinar, keep filling the chat with your comments and your questions. But yeah, we'll get started in about a minute.
From Indonesia. I've done quite a bit of work in Indonesia. I used to travel there regularly a few years ago. So amazing country.
All righty. Well, once again, everybody, welcome. My name is Chelsea, and I am a community admin in the Maintenance Community Slack group, which is a community of over, I believe, 3,700 maintenance and reliability professionals now. And we hold a ton of discussions. We host live webinars like this one with industry experts like Simon himself, and we share a lot of resources that are completely free and so much more. So please join us if you aren't already in this free community. I believe Joanne will post the link in this chat box for you to join. And also, we are recording this webinar right now, and the recording will be available to you and on demand as soon as we end our session. You will get a link in your inbox probably right after. And I'm really stoked for today's webinar. We have Simon Murray here from Your Maintenance Coach, and he will be speaking on the topic of how to sell your reliability program. But before I pass the mic to him, I want to go over some quick housekeeping. At the very end of the presentation, if we have some time, Simon will answer some of the questions that you might have. So at the right side of your screen, you guys are all really familiar with it now. In the chat box, feel free to submit any questions that you might have throughout the webinar as they come up, and Simon will try to go over as many questions as he can at the very end of his presentation. And with that, I think I covered everything. So I'm going to hand over to Simon to kick us off.
Thanks, Chelsea. Welcome, everybody. So Simon Murray from Your Maintenance Coach. I'm really excited to be able to share this with you today because a lot of the work I do is helping people to actually, everybody knows they want their reliability program, but it's getting everyone in the business to buy in and support it, isn't it? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, I want to be very upfront, very clear with you before we get into this. This isn't going to be 45 minutes, an hour of me showing you how to justify ROI, how to do the financial payback on your reliability program. This is much more about how you're going to get everybody engaged, how you're going to get them on board, and how you're actually going to get them to work with you on the reliability program. So if you're in, there's probably one or two reasons that you're on this call, and that is, one is, you've got to launch a program. You're probably in a bit of a pain point at the moment, and you want the business to take notice of you and move forward. That's one. The second one is that your business has a reliability program that's kind of faltering or floundering, or everybody's not on board. And look, if you've got the second one, that's probably because you haven't been through the steps I'm going to teach you today. And if you're in the first one, you're in a perfect group, because what I'm going to show you today is all about how do you start the journey. Yeah, this isn't about we've got something going. This is about what's that first meeting like when you talk to people. So let me just get my clicker working. There we go. So let's have a look first of what I see when there's no sale. And I'm going to talk a bit salesy, because essentially what I'm teaching you to do in this next hour is become a salesperson. Yeah, I'm going to teach you some of the psychology of sales, some of the psychology that I use when I'm selling to and helping my clients on their journey. But when there's no sale, and I'm sure some of you are in this boat, it's like nobody's listening, isn't it? No one listens to you. You shout as loud as you can, you get the megaphone out, you know what's right and what needs to be done, but nobody listens. How frustrating is that? And then, of course, there's no money. And this is, if you know the Oliver Twist story, please, sir, can I have some more? And this is what I find when everyone's not engaged in the reliability program. Everybody's there, please, sir, can I have some more? And it's not that there's no money. It's that all the money's going on breakdowns and repairs we don't want to do. It's not going on the good stuff. When there's no sale, when the whole business I'm talking about here isn't engaged on the reliability journey and your reliability program, it's like they're stuck in their old ways, isn't it? I see plenty of businesses where, it's the two old guys with the handsaw. There's a different way to think about this. There's a better way to think about this, but the business is stuck in those old ways, and it's our job today to learn the tools to change this. And of course, when nobody listens, when the business is stuck in their old ways, what happens is the maintenance team loses support. You start to get the blame for everything. And I use this picture because it always reminds me of hide and seek. You're a reliability manager who's driving their program. You take 2 weeks off on holiday, or even just over a weekend, or there's a couple of breakdowns, and you turn around and everybody's scattered. Yeah, I certainly remember that story from when I was a maintenance manager. But let me show you the other side. Let me show you what can happen when the reliability program is bought by everybody, and when the maintenance manager, the reliability managers, when they go through a good sales process to engage people. And really, when I talk sales, we're talking education. Yeah, that's what today's about. How do we educate the people in our business to support what we know is right? So first of all, instead of nobody listening, everyone in your business becomes a raving fan. And I use this picture in a lot of my slides because it's so right. You think of a great rock star, even a great comedian. People will pay a lot of money to go and listen to whatever they've got to say, even if it's, in some cases, in other people's perceptions, a load of old rubbish. Everyone has their fans. And when people engage in your reliability program, they'll be your fans. And instead of having no money, you're going to see some wise investment in you and your team. Now, I'm not sure this guy's invested that money wise, and I'm not sure he's earned it in a very appropriate way either. He looks a bit dodgy to me. But the point is, he's got that money now, and he's got it to invest in the good things. Yeah, it's not in breakdowns and reactive stuff. He's looking to the future. And instead of those two old guys on the saw, your business has got a new way of thinking. Yeah, the reliability program, in educating people to come on board, it's about how do we think differently? And the chainsaw compared to that old saw is one of the best examples we can see. So what happens then? Instead of everybody running away, instead of everybody abandoning whatever's happening in maintenance and reliability now, the business starts to trust what you're doing, don't they? And the business starts to trust, hang on, we're on board with this person. We know they can lead us in the right way. And I don't know if you've ever played this game here. My daughters call it the trust fall. And I've certainly been on a couple of team building programs and leadership courses where you play this game, and you're blindfolded, you fall backwards, and someone's got to catch you. And the question I always ask is, it's not until you can put your maintenance manager and your production manager in the same room to play this game, and they trust each other to do this, that you're really going to move forward in the business. So let me share with you, let me put all this into context for you. I want to share with you a client of mine. I've worked with them for many years. They're a butter producer. And for many years, I worked with them around things like helping to create flesh out their CMMS. We did some planning and scheduling training. We built some PMs and things like this. And, this went on, and I'd come and go. And after a bit of time, the head guys came to me and they said, look, Simon, we can see its benefits and we can see we need it, but it's not really turning the dial on our OEE. Our OEE is not really moving. What's going on? And what we saw when we actually took a look back is the business was focused purely on just that maintenance function, just on really what was in that CMMS. And the maintenance manager at the back of his head, he had these ideas around what a proper reliability program looked like. But he didn't know how to sell it. He just knew, look, I don't want to be doing just this maintenance. There's other stuff out there. We need to be improving. We need to be looking at predictive, Internet of Things. We need to be engaging our project teams. He knew all of this stuff, but he didn't know how to articulate it. So the next project we worked on with him was to really flesh that out, was to take him through the process that I'm going to take you through now. And the end result is as soon as, and this is literally as soon as, with no exaggeration, within an hour of the business owner who, the CEO is a big family business, within an hour of seeing this process, he bought into the reliability journey that we're now working through with them. So let me take you through that. So let's go on a journey. And this is where it gets interesting. Because when you're selling your reliability program, it's not about numbers. It's not about, the justification. We want to take them on a journey. It's like going on holiday, because people crave for an experience. And if we can engage the people that you're trying to get buy-in from in this journey, in an experience, I will guarantee you they'll be on board with you forever. So let's get into some of the models. After this slide, this is the last big picture, I promise you. And then we're going to get into some different models and tools and techniques that I use. So I really encourage as we go through this, grab a pen and a piece of paper, because each of these 5 steps I'm going to take you through has got a fairly detailed model behind it. And I want you to really, as we go through, do it for yourself. I'm really sharing with you now. In many respects, it's kind of like, when the magician tells you how the trick is done. That's what I want to be today for you. So number 1, know your audience. What do I mean by know your audience? Well, we look at this guy in the picture. I'm not sure he's going to sell many CDs to the teenage audience he's got it behind him. So he's trying to sell to the wrong people in the wrong way. And if this isn't about, you might say, oh, well, I know who my boss is and I know the HR manager. But what I want you to know them as is, what are their behavior styles? What's going on deep in their thinking? And the model I'm going to share with you to understand this is a model called DISC. And many of you will have seen this before. If you've seen it before, great. I encourage you to go through this again and really make sure, as a refresher, you're using it every day. If you've never seen it before, this is going to be one of the greatest tools you will ever learn to prevent conflict in your team. So DISC is 4 quadrants. It is 4 behavioral styles, and every single person fits within one of these 4 quadrants. And our quadrants are dominant, influential, compliant, and steady. And we're going to dig deep into this. And there's 2 things I want you to take out of this model. The first one, which quadrant do you sit in? Very important to understand where you sit as a person. I'm going to guess that, given that most people on the call are of an engineering background, I can tell you exactly where you are. I think there's a couple of business development, sales type roles on there too, looking at the chat. It's also going to be pretty obvious where you sit too. So number 1, understand where you are. Number 2, understand where the other people in your team, your boss, your subordinates are, even your peers, because this is about how we're going to be speaking to them. So when we're selling our reliability program, we need to be talking in the same language. Okay. So how do we know what we are? Well, dominant and compliant people are very much task focused. Influential and steady people are very much people focused. So what does that mean? Well, on your left, accountants, lawyers, executives, engineers, professors, all about the task. Yeah, that's what we enjoy doing. People focus on the right-hand side. Actors, actresses, social workers, doctors and nurses. See how the difference appears already? So already you now can split everybody you know into one of those two groups. Let's go a bit further. Our dominant and influential people are extroverted. Yeah, so they're quite outgoing. Our compliant and steady people, introverted, quite quiet, shallow, reserved. So now we can split them up again. So task focused, extrovert, dominant. CEO, aggressive, loud, determined to get things done. Extroverted, people focus, an actor. Yeah, life and soul of the party, always out on show. Down into our steady, a people-focused introvert, a nurse, yeah, a librarian, someone quite quiet. And the job titles, these are just to give you a guide. Go and do an assessment online. Introverted, task-focused, professors, scientists, dare I say it, engineers. This is where most of us are sitting. So let me give you some of the traits of what's happened here. Let me go into this. Dominant. They're active, fast-paced, strong-willed, goal-orientated, serious, competitive, confrontational. Yeah, they don't mind telling you what they want, but they're a driver and they make things happen. They shoot from the hip. I've worked with many bosses like this. This is a great executive entrepreneurs. They're driven to get things done, and they will do it regardless of who's in their way. Our influential people, though, outgoing, charismatic, enthusiastic. They love the limelight, fun to be with, party people, but generally disorganized. Yeah, sounds like a marketing department to me. People-focused, introverted. These are good listeners, these steady people. They're passive and softly spoken. They resist change. They like detailed direction. Yeah? They're not hurried, very slow and conservative. And then finally, our compliance, task-focused and introverted, information gathering, analytical, too analytical. I'm sure we can all attest to this, the C's in the room. But they're talented and creative. We're perfectionists and we're loyal. And one really important thing here in our compliance is that we see problems. I say we because I'm a high C. We see the problem, not the solution. So this is the guy in your team, when you explain something, the person who says it won't work because it's because of this behavioral style. It's not them being a pain or being disruptive. It's because that is the way their brain has been programmed to think. Now, let me put one more layer on top of this, because all of that can be quite hard to take in. And I really do encourage you to go away and practice this. Think about where people sit. Let me give you 4 birds that you can reference to. So our dominant people, think of them as eagles. Yeah, we know what an eagle's like. We know it swoops down, it's quick, it kills its prey. Our influential over here, these are parrots and peacocks. Yeah, they're fluffing their feathers everywhere and they're very colorful. You can even tell an eye, probably by the car they drive, by the clothes they wear. Down here in our steady, this is a dove. Yeah, a loving little quiet dove. And over here in blue, we've got our owls, the wise old owl. So what I really want to encourage you to do is, as I say, have a look at where you are and have a look at where all the other people who are going to be in the room when you present your reliability program to them. Yeah, because that's what this is about. This session is about me gearing you up to get all of the key players in your business together and actually present to them and take them on this journey. So this is where you have to start. You have to understand exactly who's in the room and what their thinking is like. Because if we go in there with high C language, yeah, we're going to go in there with all the numbers, all of our OEE metrics, all of our breakdown statistics. Well, I can tell you that our HR manager, who's likely sitting over in an S position, doesn't care about that. They're worried about how it's going to impact the people. Yeah. Our executive who's signing off on the check, our dominant D, He doesn't care about all that detail. That's going to bore him senseless. He just wants to know when you're going to get it fixed, how much is it going to cost, when are you going to start? Yeah. So what I'm going to teach you today is how to weave all of that in the language. And I encourage you as we go through, look at the language I'm using, not just the context, because I'm presenting this assuming that there's a variety of people on the call. Mostly C's, a few D's, very few I's and S's is my gut feel for who's on this call, and I will present appropriately, and you should do the same. So DISC, very, very simple behavioral profile, one of the most powerful things I've ever learned as a leader. And if you use this with your people, have a look at the conflict you've got in your team, maybe because you're in different profiles, different quadrants, and just be careful, you can't switch quadrants. Yeah, it becomes very, very obvious. If you're a C and you suddenly start asking people, come and give me a big hug and tell me how the weekend went, they'll see right through it. But you can lean towards the other quadrants. Yeah, you can, if you're a high C, which I was as a manager, I had to lead in a little bit. I had a boss who was very much an I, polar opposites. He'd come through marketing. And so what I would have to do is every time we start a meeting, I'd be aware that we're not going to jump into the numbers. We're going to talk about how the weekend was. We're going to talk about how the team are developing. So same thing, I had another boss who was high D. So when I walked into his office, I didn't ask him how the weekend went. You ask a high D how the weekend went and how the family are, you're going to get them angry. So just be careful about all of this. Okay, DISC. Let me move on. We've got a lot to get through here. Number 2, so this is still before we're in the room presenting to them, guys. Understand their pain, yes? Too many of us go into launching this, this sale, this process, this education process, justifying our reliability program by telling people how wonderful things are going to be in 3 years' time. Yeah? 3 years' time is a long way away, and people can't relate to it. So it doesn't really mean anything to most people. Now, the human brain is geared to either move towards pleasure or away from pain. Yeah, these are the only things that make us make a decision. And I say make because we don't always consciously do it. And the human will 90% of the time much more, respond much more quickly to moving out of pain than they will into the pleasure. Yeah, because the pleasure, which is 3 years away, the reliability, excellence, everything's humming along. It's too big a leap for people. We've got to understand what are people going through now that will, that this reliability program will fix. What is it? And I used the picture of the paracetamol. If you come across someone with a really bad migraine or headache, yeah, they will snap that out of your hand. They will pay you anything for that paracetamol to take that pain away. Yeah. But think of the other way. Will they pay you to go through meditation process, courses, essential oils, all of the things that are going to stop the next headache? No, because they want that pain to go away and they're not even thinking about the next one. Pains can be very different. So often we look at this and we say, pain point for the production managers, lines are always breaking down, business is losing money, maintenance managers having to run around. But look a bit deeper. So many years ago, I was working for a business and we needed to rapidly increase the equipment throughput. And we were trying to get the afternoon shift operators engaged in the process. And we're saying, because what was happening is this was a milk processing facility. So day shift would come in, they would do 8 hours of production, afternoon shift would come in and they'd have to stay until all the milk was processed. And depending on breakdowns, sometimes that would take 8 hours, in which case they'd get out about 11 o'clock at night. But sometimes they'd run 2, 3, even 4 hours overtime on the worst days. So these people, they'd lost all faith in maintenance. They really didn't want to get on board with any new programs. But what we established when we dug a bit deeper into this and we looked for the pain point, what was happening is many people on that shift were actually working the afternoon shift because their husbands, wives, partners worked day shifts somewhere else. So the kind of husband and wife were splitting the roles. And the people on this afternoon shift, they had to go home, have a good night's sleep, and then get up at 6:30, 7 o'clock to get the kids to school. Now that was okay if they got home at 11:30. But when we had a bad maintenance day and the line was still running at 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, they were surviving on 3-4 hours sleep. So that was their pain point. Yeah, nothing to do with OE, nothing to do with downtime. We had to dig deeper into the language of it. Right. Number 3, this is where we're going to get into some engineering. This is where we're going to get into your reliability program. Steps 1 and 2, they're happening outside the room. Okay. Now, what I'm going to take you on, this is the journey we're going to take your people on almost in the conference room. Think of this as how we're presenting to them the reliability program. Excuse me. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw away all the booklets, all the brochures, and what people are going to engage with you in is a visual of something that shows them where are we now that they can relate to, where do we want to go to. Okay, we're not going to tell them at this point how we're going to get there. That's the next step. So all we're doing now is we're creating this sort of gap. You know, we're stretching the gap between where are we now and where should we be. Okay, and the model I do this, and this is accessible to all of you. I use the DIPF curve. So this is from the guys over at Reliability Web, which I'm sure a lot of you know and follow. And I use this curve because it's a curve, it's a model that you can just unpack in so many ways. You could talk about this for days, weeks even. And obviously in its origins, it was a very technical thing about reliability and failure. I'm going to show you how to use it in the room with anybody who's there. So the language, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to slip into role play and deliver it as I would deliver it to a team. And I'm imagining in that room, there's finance guys, there's HR people, there's the boss, there's non-technical people. There may even be technical people in there as well. And this is kind of probably going to take me 5 minutes, I'd say, to walk through this. This is what you'll remember the case study of the butter company. This is what got their buy-in. So the way I would describe this DIPF curve. Okay, so on our left, guys, and I'm talking to my wider audience here, to the people I'm trying to engage, we've got what we call resistance to failure. And really, I want you to think about that as, you know, impacting production. So right down the bottom of our 0, it means we've had a big impact on production. Yeah, we've stopped production and we've stopped it in a big way. Up at the top of our 100%, production's running fine. Production doesn't know there's an issue. Production's just going to keep going. So we start with failure, you know, and you've got to think we've got lots of equipment in our plant at the moment where we run it to catastrophic failure. Yeah, we're having daily breakdowns and there's nothing we can do about that. Yeah, they keep catching us by surprise. And when we have one of these breakdowns, we all know the impact that that's having on production. It's stopping it dead. But there are some areas of the plant where we've managed to put some preventative maintenance schedules in place. And you can see here now that our resistance to failure is increasing. So those lines and those bits of equipment where we put preventative maintenance in place, we're actually getting a bit of a head start. The failures are still happening, but we're seeing them in advance. So instead of them really stopping production, we're getting to them before that. We're able to just slow production down a little bit. So it's not as big an impact. So we've got PMs in place in some areas, but it's just such hard work trying to get them in there. You know, our PMs, they're time-based. It means all of the fitters, all of the electricians have got to be able to work in the same way. And often they can't, you know, so we get different standards of work. So it's a real struggle at this point. But there's this thing I've been investigating, and it's called predictive maintenance. Now, we don't do any of this on this site at the moment, but it's the next bit from preventative. And this is things like vibration analysis and motor testing and thermography. And, you know, I know some of you in the room aren't technical, but what this really means is it's giving us much more, you know, foresight of the failures that are going to happen. So if I put this in layman terms for you, we had a bearing fail last week because there was no PMs on it. If we'd have been doing PMs, then we probably would have picked up that bearing failure a week or so ago before it impacted production. Yeah? And if we'd have been doing vibration analysis on that bearing, well, we'd have known a month or so ago that there was a problem, and then it really wouldn't have impacted production at all. So what I want to do is start moving us up into this predictive space, and that's what this reliability journey thing is all about. Now, I just want to bring in, because, I'm talking to, all the executives in the room here. Guys, we've got to be aware that this failure and preventative is the most expensive way we can do maintenance, yeah? Because every time there's a failure, the line stops. Every time there's a failure, people are arguing and shouting at each other. Everybody's frustrated. And it's expensive. They argue. But more importantly, guys, it's unsafe. Yeah, everybody's rushing around because we're under so much pressure to get the product out the door. So that's what I want you to think about here in these three things. This reliability journey, just imagine if we didn't have machines failing, but instead we knew a month out every time something was going to be a problem. That's what moving up this curve is about. And that's what the reliability journey I'm going to share with you is all about. Now, this all looks great, doesn't it? But let me tell you, there's further. We can go further with this. And this next step, this might be a year or two in the future, but let me show you what the future could look like for us. So the future is proactive, where we don't even, in many cases, we're not doing maintenance on the machinery after it's installed, because in this proactive stage, we're making sure it's installed properly with the best tools by the best people. We're making sure all of our tradesmen are trained and they understand what to do. At this point, everyone's so engaged. We're not getting tradesmen leave. We've lost the retention. The retention is good. We're not losing people every couple of weeks. And here, the operators are involved. Yeah, everybody's working together as one big team. And then finally, we want to start bringing the project team in. And this is the design. Can we look at our designs and design out maintenance into the future? And this is, we know we've got the new plant coming online next year. None of the maintenance team have seen that yet. We don't know how easy it is to maintain. We could have given some really good input into how to save some money in the future. And here's the clincher with this: precision and design maintenance. It nearly always stops impact on production, and it's the cheapest thing we can be doing. It's the safest. It upskills our people. And trust me, I've seen it. This will change the culture of this business. So let me take a step back from that. Guys, that is, and we can unpack this model for hours and days on end, but that's the journey you need to take people on when you're actually selling your reliability program internally. Yeah. So all of that, it's, you're really honing in on what are the problems we've got now and what does the future look like. And at each point, you're checking in with the disc profile of all of the people who are in the room. Yeah. Now you're going to get to the end of that and they'll be it doesn't work, and we can't afford it, and etc., etc. But you'll have opened people's eyes. Okay. I trust that was useful. I'm looking forward. I've got my chat closed at the moment because it distracts, but I'm looking forward to seeing your comments and questions about that as we go. So feel free to drop them in as we go through. And we'll move on to the details. Okay. So now what's going to happen is we've been through the DIPF curve. We've shown people this is where we are and this is where we're going to go. Now the bit that's missing is people are going to say to you, well, how are we going to get there? What fits into the missing pieces? And if you've explained that curve well, we will have explained, let me just jump back, that this doesn't all happen. One of the important things, this isn't just an engineering function. To move through this curve requires culture change in the business. It requires leadership skills. It requires everybody to be involved. Okay? Which means at this point, people are looking at you now to say, what's the plan? Yeah, how are you going to get us there? We're on the edge of our seat. We're engaged. We know you're going to take us somewhere. This is where you present your reliability program. Yeah, the actual nuts and bolts and the logistics of the program, not before. All of this before is creating the need for what you want to get them engaged in. Now, there are thousands of reliability programs out there. There's TPM, pillars, there's lean, there's the pyramid, there's 1,000 others. For the purpose of simplicity, I'm going to walk you through the model I use. And the important thing here, when you're drawing this, and that's the important thing, you have to draw it. Yeah. Your team will engage with you much more. Again, we're going to go on a bit of a story around the model. You know, if you look at all the great reliability models out there, they're structured in a certain way with colors and pillars and houses. I use circles. Whatever it is you're going to use, make sure it's in a model that you can draw in a simple way, but people can engage with what it is. So I'm going to jump across to my iPad, and hopefully our tech works. So let me again walk you through how this is built. This model, for those of you who are interested, there's a guy, and you'll see him on LinkedIn, called Simon Bowen. Contact of mine over here. He specializes in creating models that sell. That's his business, the models method. So this kind of model, this framework comes from him. And there's another guy called Matt Church, who also is a great one for how to create models. But if you can get, if you can learn the skill of drawing models for people, I guarantee they'll buy into your program. So let me walk you through how I create this. The content, many of you who've seen me speak before will have seen this model before anyway, but the important thing is how we put the layers on it to walk people through. So I'll slip into role play again. So Tim, in the middle, at the heart of everything we do, we have reliability. Yeah, this is what we want in the center of these circles. And this is what I want for our business. Yeah, we want reliability. And we've shown on the curve that as we move up, everything is going to be better. But there's three core things we need to engage and put in our reliability program to actually make that happen. So number one, we need to engage the team. Yeah, we need to get our people on board. So right there now, I've engaged all of our HR, all of our I and S thinkers on the right-hand side. The second thing we need to do, we need to build systems. Now, nothing works unless we've got systems and structure in what we're doing. Other side of the disc profile now engaged. And finally, the most important part of this, as a team, as a business, we need to deliver results. Yeah. Now, the person who's in charge is engaged. Yeah, they're thinking about it. Because what happens if we don't do this? Look, if we don't engage the team, we're just going to end up with conflict. Yeah. And we've already got that now. You know what it's like out there. You know the battles we're waging every day. If we don't put great systems in place, then we're not going to get any improvement. Because we're just every day, we're just fighting fires. That's all we're doing every day, fighting fires, and nothing's ever getting better. And if we don't deliver great results, then we're not going to get any recognition. Yeah. And we know that's frustrating because every single one of us in this room works really, really hard. But the problem is nobody sees it. Nobody understands it. So you'll see, guys, these are the pillars of the reliability program on the journey I want to take you on. But what does this mean? Well, look, when we've got an engaged team and we've built some systems, everything we do is going to be efficient. Yeah, it's all going to be efficient. When we've built systems and we're delivering results, well, that's when we're going to have a whole lot of impact on this business, and you're really going to start to see things moving forward. And finally, when we've engaged the team and we're delivering results, well, we're going to be seen as the experts. Yeah, we're going to be seen as the experts in this business, the expert in the team, and people from other sites are going to come and see, how did we do it? They're going to come and ask us. Now, I know you're asking what goes around the outside. Well, these are the pillars. These are the accelerators of our reliability program. This is what's actually going to get us to where we want to go. So what's in engaged team? Well, in engaged team, we're going to talk about aligning behavior. Yeah, we're going to align behavior. We're going to do lots of training with the guys to all talk the same language, want the same thing. We're going to take the company vision, mission, and values and really make them mean something to everyone on that shop floor. But then we're going to cultivate leadership. Yeah, we're going to cultivate leadership. We're going to create leaders in this business, people who never thought they could lead. We're going to get them to think in a different way. We're going to get them to lead the business forward. And we're going to grow our people. We're going to get them the best training that money can buy. And our people are going to be our strength. So that engage the team piece, there's a whole group in your business that are going to look for the people element, whatever the pillar is. If it's lean, there's a whole stack around lean in, people. TPM, there's a whole stack around people in TPM. So building our systems, what's in building systems? Well, we're going to simplify strategy. Yeah. Simplifying our strategy means we're going to take all the stuff we're talking about here and make it really simple for people on the shop floor to understand. The whole business is going to understand our reliability program and our reliability strategy. We're going to tailor our maintenance tactics. We're going to tailor them because we're doing some PMs, we're doing some reactive stuff, but as you saw on that chart, we haven't really chosen which bits we should be doing on each bit of kit. And that's what tailoring our tactics is. We're going to go through and say which one is what. And then we're going to audition tools. We're going to look at what are all the tools we need to use in our business and make sure that we've auditioned them so that they're the right things for our team. So that is, I'm not going to finish it all off. I want to move on to the next slide, but that is how we bring all of that together. And when you're presenting to engage in your reliability program, you need to be up there on the whiteboard, talking to the people who are in the room and actually engaging them through what you're passionate about. So make sure your reliability program is actually something that you can draw, and it's something that you can engage them in. So let's move on. Let me just move again. Try to switch back to my slides. There we go. Okay, so that's what all that looks like. You'll get that in the slides. Okay, next one. Conscious of time, so I'm going to move quite quickly for these last couple of slides. Next thing we want to do is we want to create some desire and urgency. Yeah, so on this journey, we've shown people where they are, where they want to be, and they've got you there. Then they're on the edge of their seats. How are we going to do this? When you've presented your reliability program, whatever that looks like, they're now, okay, we can see that will get us there. But often there's people who, like engineers, want to take it all away and understand, well, let's think about this for a couple of years. Or, do we want to invest in this? What we want to do in this, and I'm going to show you this in this next drawing, is how do we actually create some urgency so that you get not having to wait months or weeks, but you kind of get some action there on the day. So let me jump across back to my iPad. I want to draw this. So what we're going to do, this is a model called, I think it comes from Simon Bowen, it's called Four Futures, or Future Forces. And if we are here now, and here is 12 months, and you can actually copy this directly when you're presenting, and this up here is our business performance. Oh, excuse my handwriting. Doesn't like me being on the edge of the screen. So this is our business performance, high and low. And what we know is that if we don't do anything, and this is the language I use when I'm talking to people, then our business performance is all the way down here. If we do nothing, things are going to get pretty ugly, yeah? Because in doing nothing, it's not like things are going to stay the same. Equipment's going to fail. We've got stuff that's already failing. We're already over budget. The business is already struggling. We're not satisfying all of our customers. So doing nothing doesn't mean we stay the same. In fact, to stay the same, we need to do some things. And look, these some things they might be, we're going to send the planner on some training. We're going to, embark on this new culture change program. We might do leadership training. We're going to rewrite all of our PMs. These are the some things that you would do to keep you where you are. But the third line you can draw on this to get people's attention in the room for you is what happens if you do your reliability program. You can say that, look, guys, after, I reckon after about 9 months, it might be a bit of a slow start, but at 6 to 9 months, we're going to start seeing some really big changes in our business performance. And we're going to do that because we're going to move up that DIPF curve. Yeah, we're going to move because you keep coming back to that curve because people now understand what it is. We're going to move out of this reactive state. We're going to get some PMs in place first, and then we're going to start looking at, our predictive type activities. And when we hit that, in that 9-month stage, what we're going to see is a lot less breakdowns on site, a lot less overtime, a lot less arguing. Yeah, because you've taken them on such a journey. People now understand that. Why would I not do this? Yeah, they're so invested already that you've actually got them so that they want to engage, and they want to engage quick. And then, of course, you can draw that, and not many people are going to say, well, let's wait 6 months and see what happens, because we've just told them, well, look, the longer we wait, the bigger this gap gets. Yeah, the longer we wait. And in 9 months' time, if we wait 6 to 9 months' time, I'm not sure I can get you back up there. Yeah, and that you can use that language as a maintenance man. I'm not sure from where we're going to be in 9 months' time. I'm not sure I'll be able to get us back on track. So that's the final bit of sort of saying, boom, how do we get there? So let me try and get my slides back. Okay, there we go. So that's what that looks like drawn it pretty for you in the slides. And that's that journey, guys. So you'll remember we took them on, I have one more trick though. We took them through, you understood your audience. We threw DISC in. Then we knew the pain points. So we knew how your reliability program was going to help each person. We went through the DIPF model to actually say, okay, this is where we are. This is where we're going. It's sparking interest in how can you help me get there? And once they know they have to go on that journey, your reliability program drawn as a model gives them confidence that or they know, if they do this, you will actually get them to where they want to go. And then finally, we created a bit of urgency in that, guys, we've got to do this sooner rather than later. But I've got one last trick, and I want to kind of really let the cat out of the bag and show you what we've just done. So there is there is a model called a theory called format. And it's by a lady called Bernice McCarthy. And it is a model that explains how people learn and how people process data. And I'm just going to quickly draw this for you. Now, this is about, she developed it for school children because what she realized is everybody in her class learned in different ways. And the process I've just shown you is built on format. So as I fill this in, reflect on what we've actually just been through, and I'll show you where we did each stage. I think Bernice uses different colors, but please look it up. I'm going to give you a terrible version of this compared to what she can. So please have a look at the way she explains it. Now, there are 4 types of learning. The way people learn, the way people absorb data. This is a little bit different to DISC, but quite similar. So you will notice there are people who are all about the why. Why are we doing this? They don't actually care what we're doing. They don't care how we're going to do it, when we're going to do it. They just want to know the big picture why. These people are thinking about the whole universe. Why are we doing this type of stuff? Then there's people who want to know, what are we going to do? Now, these people want to know, what are we going to do? So the why people here, you'll remember that nearly an hour ago now, I presented some slides with one word on. Yeah, I started talking about, what good sales and bad sales look like. I spoke a little bit about why this is important to you, because there'll be people on the call whose ears pricked up. Now I see. And without that why piece, nothing fits together. Then we spoke about what are we going to do? And this is our DIPF curve. Yeah. What are we going to do? There's a lot of people who need to know, okay, we're going to go from here to here. And some people will then say, leave me at that, I'll find my own way. Some people will ask to be guided, but there are a chunk of people who learn and engage with, they need to know, what are we going to do? And that's often the bit that people miss. So when these programs don't get good traction, often all of this is missed. And we jump in straight with the how are we going to do it? Which is the model. Yeah. So this is where often, if your program is not working well, it may be that it's only been presented in a how are we going to do it way. You know, this is the lean house, or this is the pyramid. This is what we're going to do. This is the planning and scheduling training. Well, without the why and the what, it lacks context. And then finally, to wrap up, we've got the what happens if. And these are the people who are going to bombard you with questions at the end. What happens if we do it? What happens if we don't do it? And these are the people who are looking for all the little gaps, yeah? And they need all these questions answered. They don't really care why or what or how. These are predominantly your engineers. And it's the person who's going to keep asking you questions. How do we do it? How do we get away from that? So this format, as I say, if you're watching the recording as well, or have a look at format and then go back through the recording, you'll see we've used this to actually help engage all these different learning styles as well. So everybody, I think that is my last slide. It's been an absolute pleasure to be able to present that to you. There was an absolute stack of information in there. I trust it was all useful. My name is Simon Murray from Your Maintenance Coach. Feel free to reach out if there's any questions that we don't get through today. Reach out with an email. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn, or you can jump over and have a look at the website. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you, Simon, so much. Just for, really going above and beyond and sharing really applicable and valuable information to our group here, and also to our wider community who will be viewing this later on. And so we really, really appreciate it. We did get a couple questions throughout your webinar that I'm just gonna kind of read out to you here. The first question is from Felix, I believe, and he said, how do you mark and implement a reliability program?
To mark and implement, the process I use is essentially to make sure it's, the process I use is to start off with a benchmarking audit. So in your reliability program, there will be pillars or categories. I've got 9 pillars around the outside of mine. What I do is conduct an audit in each of those, and also map out what does 0 to 100% look like in stages. So your reliability program, for example, may have a pillar of planning and scheduling. What you need to do is to say, okay, if I was going to audit planning and scheduling, what would I expect to see in the bottom 10%? Then the next 10%. And then what does planning and scheduling look like when I'm going to score 100%? So within each of those pillars, you actually create another roadmap, which is a set of building blocks. And each one of them can have sat behind it a training module. So I hope that answers that question. But yeah, it's about the audit and then a structured next steps.
Awesome. And moving on to our next question here. Sorry if I do not pronounce your name right. I believe his name is Ratno. But he or she said, how can we sell a reliability program to a department facility that is not related with the core business? And I guess in Ratno's case, he says it's easy to sell reliability to his production department.
So this is about how do I sell to the production department?
Maybe to a different department outside of production.
Oh, sorry. Easy to sell reliability related for the course. So same concept, but so everybody in that business, a proper reliability program will touch everybody in the business. Finance, because finance are worried about you spending too much money. HR, because HR are worried, human resources are worried about recruiting and training and people development. So you've really just got to look at those departments and see, how does the reliability program help that department? And broaden it out. Often I see people talk about reliability programs, and it's really just the technical stuff. It's just planning and scheduling, vibration analysis. You've really got to broaden out your reliability program to understand the culture change that's necessary. And culture change, a culture of reliability through the whole business impacts everybody. And what you've got to do is just really spend time to think, how will what I'm doing impact that department?
Awesome. And moving on to another question here. This person asked, what will be the minimum and optimal size of an independent reliability team? What other domain expertise types, apart from engineering, should be considered?
Wow. Optimum size. Look, I've seen businesses go through a great reliability journey with zero, essentially. A little, with a maintenance manager who spends lots of times on forums like this and just sucks up all of the information they can get. And then I've seen larger businesses where there's a reliability team of 10, 20 people going around multiple sites. And to be honest, those larger ones can often be the most ineffective. But look, for the team and the makeup, every business is different. What the business has to understand, though, is, let's get a core group together who can forget about the reliability at the moment. What you really want in your business is a core group of people who can drive change. So it's almost change management rather than engineering, because if you can get people engaged in, we want to change, we want to do things differently, how do we move up that DIPF curve? The technical stuff is all out there. The technical stuff's the easiest bit to get. It's about getting those people engaged. So the size of the team, look, as I say, it really varies depending on the size of your business, but it's make sure there are people internally who can drive the change initiative.
Awesome, great insights. As we are nearing the end of our time, let's just ask one more question here from Sean. How do you get past the influential old timers who are always saying that's just not how we do things?
That's it. If that influential old timer is above and putting a stop to the whole program, then that's a difficult one. Sometimes you can't influence the people above. And I've seen many people leave a business because, look, they just get so frustrated that the business isn't going to change. However, I've seen lots of instances where that sort of comment is coming from people, so the business has said, if the business says we're going to do this, then the business culture should drive through that. And I've seen, and we worked with clients where, one example in particular, there was a business I was working with there. They said, we are going to drive continuous improvement and culture change in the next 6 months. And there was 2 people in particular who stood out and said, nah, that's not happening here. And they both exited the business. One of them exited the business because they knew they couldn't fight the momentum of the business. And the other one just wouldn't play the game. So he was asked to leave. Sometimes a great mentor of mine once said, if you can't change the people, it's time to change the people. So sometimes it has to come about that. Not everybody suits being in a rapidly changing, improving environment. Some people just can't operate in that. And it's our role as leaders to identify that and help them to move into a place they're more suitable for.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Simon, once again for joining us. And thank you to everybody who decided to come to this webinar. Again, we will be sending over the recording of this webinar to you immediately after this ends. And so be on the lookout for that in your inbox. And thank you again so much, everybody. And we hope you have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Our last kind of announcement is please join us next week, February 23rd to 25th for our Career Development Fair. It's going to be 3 jam-packed days filled with awesome live events, and thousands of dollars of giveaways and a ton of free resources as well. So hope to see you guys there. And thank you so much again, Simon.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.